Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, Joey McGuire is bothered and fired up.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So visit FanDuel.com to get started today. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. And fired up is the theme of the episode. Chris, we'll get into a couple of thoughts from Joey McGuire, all delivered in enthusiastic fashion. We'll touch on, of course, what's happening in your backfield as it relates to the QBs. And maybe a surprise to some, I don't know, not to some others, but we'll talk about the way in which Baron Morton was discussed by the head coach and others. Unintentional rhyme master with us on today's episode. Coming up in just a moment. But first, just wanted to begin with what was a general message. I kind of felt like not only to his locker room, as Coach McGuire said, but then also to just, I suppose, anybody in red and black out there that's looking for some direction to this point in the season. Where do we go from here? Here's the approach from the Red Raiders.
Believe me or not believe me, there's no person on this earth that wants to win more for this fan base than me. It bothers me that people are upset. It bothers me. Not upset with me. Again, say whatever you want. It bothers me that because we couldn't take care of business on Saturday, that this is how people feel that are Red Raiders. It bothers me. So if you don't think it does or whatever it is, trust me, it does, and I'm going to get it fixed. We're going to keep building. We're going to keep fighting. That's what Red Raiders are. That's what we're going to do. The one thing that I told the team, there's a lot of things that are on the table. I know nobody wants to hear this, but this is what I said to the team yesterday. We have not won 4 consecutive bowl games since Mike Leach. Okay, it's 2024. So that was 2000 to 2010. We have an opportunity to do that. Texas Tech, in the history of Texas Tech, and I could be totally wrong about this, I go back to 1932, and I know we've been playing since 1925. Texas Tech has never won 4 consecutive bowl games. We have the opportunity to do that. All right? I believe that we can beat anybody on our schedule. Well, it's been since 2009 that Texas Tech's won 9 games. We have the opportunity to do that. So whenever we're sitting here, talking about, hey, where we are, where we've been, and where we need to go, we are pushing this program forward. We're going to find a way to do that. And, that I'm fired up about that. I'm not upset about any of that. I'm fired up about that because I want my guys to believe that, and they do. When we talked through yesterday, I met with the seniors and say, look, you have the opportunity to leave this place better than you found it when you came in. And they have. Just by winning 3 bowl games, they've made it better than what it was before. But we still have things to do. And so I don't want them, because we lose by a point and it's a frustrating loss and everybody feels like the sky's falling, and I think it's hit me 2 or 3 times that this is the end of the season. We still have a lot of things that we can do that haven't been done here or haven't been done in a long, long time. And so that's our message of how we keep pushing.
Enthusiastic, to say the least. Would we expect any different? And I am into the idea of beating everybody else on the schedule.
I think some people forget sometimes that as much as we love it, and there's been some fun times around here, and we kind of hold on to a few of these seasons, and we look back at some positive memories. The part that sticks out the most as far as like the historical perspective is you hadn't won 9 games since 2009. And yet, if you see some reaction, it's like you feel like you're owed 10-win seasons every year, and that's just boy. I mean, I'd love to sign up for that, but there's not anything in your past that would suggest this is what you are just yet, and you're trying to push to that. But I think Joey partly is like trying to. I think you said it, Cowan, trying to talk to his team as much as the fan base. I think that Saturday's kind of loss is an emotional one to get over, and it's sometimes hard, and those can drag. And he even said that right after the game, and I could feel it. I would, when just kind of talking to him after the game, as soon as it was over, and just kind of the mood, it's like you felt like you let one get away, and those are really hard to. You play better. You did a lot of good things in that game. I think he even pointed out that they've got this 7-step plan to win. That is, it's win the middle 8 and the turnover battle. There's 8 key things in there. And you won or tied 5 of the 7. And I think he even said it in some of his commentary to the media yesterday that there's only been one other game that he'd been involved in where you'd lose that. Usually that is a direct recipe for, if you do this stuff, you will win the game, the end. And I think it was one of the games that when he was at Baylor, and they were really good and they lost a close one to Oklahoma. And so I think that's hard to stomach for him as much as anybody, because I think he would tell you he prides himself on winning the close ones. I mean, what is it? What is he? What was he? 6-1 in the last 7 coming into that game, and now it's 6-2 in the last 8 Big 12 games. But this is what you're dealing with in this league right now, because contrary to popular belief, you're not great. You are flawed like everybody else. And I think I said it in one of the shows earlier in the week, is that it's about, man, I see what you're capable of, but then we're seeing some of the other things that you're capable of too. And like, it's razor thin on some of it. But I appreciate him being passionate, because what you don't want is you don't want him to change. He's got to be who he is. And I think a lot of times he's very outspoken or transparent or passionate positively. This is him basically kind of saying some of the same things, just in a different way, but trying to tell everybody, look, man, when it doesn't go well, I'm at the front of the list on who it bothers. Yeah, but I appreciate it, and I think Zach Kitley and Tim DeRuyter basically also all said something similar. Like we've got to fix this. We've got to be better. We've got to. But that's a whole different subject that we can get into later.
When you say contrary to popular belief, the team is not great, I don't really know if that specifically is a popular belief. I'm hearing that from no one right now, but I'm wondering if you mean actually like the team is better than what they've shown, or are we saying the team is not talented enough, or there is some, I'm sorry, the opposite of that. There is some perspective that the team is more talented than what the record reflects. What do you really think like the frustration is based in? Because I think we all see sort of the things that go wrong. So we know that it's obviously not, a perfect football team, but is there some sense that the roster should be further along by this point in time, or like some of McGuire's athletes that have, really had a chance to make an impact, albeit these guys being so young? Like, do you think that there's just a view that an expectation should be higher based on talent? Or first, today's episode brought to you by Roy, and it's time to highlight the LOTT Roy Player of the Week. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions straight to their favorite athletes. So download Roy for iOS or Android and use our referral code Locked On, and you're going to automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. This week, it's another back-to-back Man of the Week. Caleb Douglas, who goes 9 for 140 in Fort Worth. That brings him to 23 grabs, 355 yards, and 3 TDs over his last 3 games. So for that, we're kicking Caleb $100 on Roy. If you were as impressed as we were with his performance on Saturday, you can show him some love too. Just hop on Roy, throw in whatever you feel like. Any amount's going to start adding up fast. Now you have the chance to show your appreciation for Caleb and his standout performance last week. Just download Roy for iOS or Android, then put in our referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. What are you waiting for? Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. Like, do you think that there's just a view that an expectation should be higher based on talent, or?
Well, I think in Cowan, you've loved this line from the time that it was mentioned. Mass kicks ass.
Yes, I do.
You are. I mean, I don't mind saying it. You are not great on the lines of scrimmage. You're not, and anybody that thinks you are is not watching the same team that I am. You are not. I think that at times you show some promise. At times that you can kind of figure some things out. But generally speaking, that part has got to be a lot better, and that's what because I would say that is the biggest thing that you are trying to fix this offseason, and it's the biggest thing you were trying to fix last offseason, and it's still not there yet. And it doesn't help when you're missing, due to injury, you're missing some of the pieces that you could have counted on up front. Vinny Scurry, and then now you're kind of starting to get nickel and dime with even some of your depth, because Nick Fattig going in there, Jacob Ponton would have gone in there had you missed a few guys. This is a redshirt freshman and a true freshman, and in some ways those are positives. Defensively, when you lose a Duda Banks, when you obviously Dylan Spencer and Adedire haven't played at all this year, those kinds of things. But yeah, that's what and then because. Should you have played better against Baylor? Absolutely, because it'd be nice to show up and play well. And if it's not good enough, you just tip your cap to the other guy. But I think that you didn't put your best foot forward versus Baylor at all. So what's it really look like when you do play? But see, this is what I'm saying. Like, are you not quite there yet? And then you have it in your back pocket versus TCU. Because here's a shocker. Here's what nobody has uttered aloud. Heck, what happens? Here's a novel idea. What happens if you're up 31 to 14 with 6 to go in the third, and that's enough? What happens if you're up 60?
All right, slow down here. Slow down here. I'm going to do the Mark Cuban GIF and get my notepad out because I want to make sure So you're saying that point range could be enough to win a college football game?
I mean, try that on. Yeah. I mean, some teams operate this way. Some programs actually.
Some people live that way, Chris.
Yeah, this is right. You unfortunately are not operating in that world right now. So.
That paints a pretty clear picture. I'm curious though. I mean, I think obviously these guys have the football knowledge that the trench work makes the dream work. I know they know that. I would presume there is an appetite to improve these things. But do you really think is there a path to it? Because I don't want to get down to too many brass tacks, but so many things involved now as it relates to the mood of a booster or a donor to, in these cases, go facilitate attacking this. So how do you see that kind of set up?
There's a checkbook ready to fix a lot of this stuff too. Yeah, and I mean, don't think that I'm not kidding in any way along those lines. How many which ones to go after, how many do you this and that. But hey, I have decided that I dislike losing to Baylor and TCU as much as anybody. That's what I've decided. I hate it. I can't stand it. I'm sick of. I feel like I'm locked out of listening to any kind of Big 12 football talk. I'm sick of the stupid hypnotoad crap. And all I cannot stand it to the point where I had to check myself at home in recent days just because I didn't need the other people in my home feeling my frustration. That's not fair to anyone. And so I've tried to, but
hey, if you need somebody to talk to, I can be here more than 30 minutes, 5 days a week. I promise. Let me know.
It's greatly frustrating. And the week before, it's not like Texas OU to me, but when Baylor and TCU play this upcoming weekend, my wish is that the ball would go flat, everybody goes home with a tie, and nobody gets to be happy. That's what I wish. But I probably won't get that wish granted. If there's a genie out there that would grant it, I'd love to talk to them.
As far as the logo on the helmet, nothing I like about losing to them, but I think there's just an added layer to where even if these games played out against a team I've never met before in this kind of fashion, certainly in conference being the same kind of context I would use, they're hard to stomach. You give one up and you're never in the other. And I shouldn't say never, because actually the first half was a little bit different. First half and a quarter of a quarter, something like that against the Bears. But you get the idea. The way these games played out, man, these are just brutal, I think, kind of regardless of the opponent. But that's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
Yeah, and Calvin, you talk about not, like, are you not progressing? Are you not, you're not there yet? I think nobody wanted to hear it because everybody's frustrated about the offense and who calls the plays, or now maybe who's going to play quarterback, or what play was called and who held onto the ball and all those things. But where Joey mentioned this a month ago or 3 weeks ago, and I think it was a bit lost on people, but he was like, if you want to win a championship, you want to get to where you want to go, you got to play better defense. And here's what I think, now that you've started to see some separation in the league race, just try some of this on here. Just wear it. If you don't like it, return it. Yeah, that's fine. But just try it on for a little bit. Iowa State, who you're about to play, they give up 14 points a game on defense. They're undefeated. They give up 304 yards per game. Okay, that is championship level defense. BYU, they give up 19 points per game. They give up 331 yards per game. This is why these teams are winning and winning.
And by game, you mean a set of 4 quarters? Imagine that.
Let's go to the one-loss teams, Colorado and Kansas State. They give up 22 points per game to Colorado. Colorado's defense, who was a sieve last year, and they give up 364 yards a game. Kansas State, 21 points a game and 341 yards a game. You're giving up 22 points more per game than Iowa State is. And we want to act like you're ready to win the Big 12 conference. And how dare anybody take this opportunity away from me to go to Arlington? And yet you're giving up 20. You see what I mean? I mean, that's what I just don't. Like I said before, it's like, heaven forbid 31-14 be good enough. I mean, there's a shocker. It's just so weird that, because the game has changed. People hold on to an era that's bygone. The defenses are a lot better generally, and offenses aren't as good generally. Okay, that's just statistically, just follow it. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. Nobody's running 100 plays a game anymore. Nobody's throwing for 350 a game anymore. I mean, Baron Morton throws for 257 yards. He's a 27th leading passer in the country. You know how many passes or more? How many players that have thrown for more touchdown passes in the country? Just take a guess.
2.
13. Okay. That includes Dylan Gabriel, Tyler Shuck. How about that name? Chandler Morris is one who you've beaten. Josh Hoover, who you just played. I mean, but there's just a small handful that have actually thrown for more touchdown passes than you. But it's just so that's where that's what's just an interesting look at it. But I think that's where Joey's coming at it from, and people may get frustrated with his mindset there. I don't know, but I'm looking at the contenders and look at, okay, why are they a contender? I feel like I've just told you. Iowa State, they've given up 12 touchdowns on the year, and they have 12 interceptions. 1-to-1 ratio. I've never heard anything like that before this late in the season. That's how good they are on defense. So anyway, it's just it's a different and we'll see who's pulling the trigger for the Red Raiders this weekend. But I think as far as getting better, and Tim's group has shown where it can have some spurts. And I think we liked a lot what we saw at different times on Saturday. But generally speaking, that group, and they all know it has to, because I think Joey even said it. It's easy to beat up on the defense because the numbers. And there's some injuries and things like that. But if you ever want to win a championship, that's going to have to be a component, period.
Oh, no question. And has
Yeah.
been since the dawn of football time. And even
Yeah.
though they try to outlaw defense, outlaw violence, it still rules the day for the most part at the end of the day. And it should, by the way. So hopefully we're rescinding some of those outlaw and violence regulations that have been imposed maybe at some point in the future. I'm wondering though, Chris, I mean, I didn't as a fan have those, contender type expectations and was skeptical still, or at least slow to buy some of that had built up to the first half of the season. But I'm still asking myself over the last couple of days, what does my disappointment lie in, given the fact that it looks like this team is trending towards the type of season that I predicted they would have if I'm swimming in a 7-5, 8-4 kind of ballpark, and 8 seemed not bad. And that may seem like too steep of a hill to climb at this point in time. But do you think that they showed early on this year that maybe some of those 9th in the Big 12 or middling type of projections were off base, or was it a byproduct of the schedule? Or how do you feel about those fans that, I don't know, kind of like what I described, where we weren't really necessarily ready to run wild coming into the year, but some of what they strung together, had a fella dreaming a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're 3-0 in the league, and nobody picked this team. Nobody that is watching us or listening to us had this team winning the conference championship. Not a single person. You and I didn't either. We were. I think our statements were, you just want to make things really interesting into November, and you fell just a bit short of that. You still have a lot to play for, and if you were to win out, I mean, you're not totally out of it, but it would require a win in Ames. I think short of that, I don't think that. But I think what people see is that.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Say you're watching the game, you get hit with a hunch, an instinctual calling. Well, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're going to place your bets to keep up with everything going down in real time as you submit that slip. And right now, FanDuel is going to get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's right, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with only a $5 bet out the gate at FanDuel.com.
I think what people see is that, look at Oklahoma State just fell off the map. Look at this. Look at that. Look at BYU, who was picked last, and now they're tied for first. Because the media poll that came out, it couldn't have been further off base. Only in the top 5 does Kansas State even have a winning record right now. Everybody else is just in bad shape. Yeah. Oklahoma State, Utah, obviously Kansas, Arizona. I mean, those were the 4 schools, and then Kansas State was that was the top 5 of the media poll. And we always say it's always wrong. Well, yeah, it is really wrong this year. So I think that's part of why. But you had a favorable schedule. We said this to everybody, but you got a little taste and you dared to dream. We did too. and then you feel like you're just not that far off. That's, I think, what frustrates people is you're just right there. And you picked a bad time to no show when the Baylor Bears showed up. But that's where you have to look at it like, okay, are we close? Or are we far off? Are we close? Because the margins in this league, as we're seeing, they're razor thin, and so a little thing here or there, a lucky break, some health breaks, some the right call, the right non-call, whether it's an official or a play call or defensive call, whatever, it's enough to make it or break it in many cases. But I'm just trying to paint a different side of the picture and play and get everybody to maybe look at the whole deal and not just just one aspect, because I don't know. I think that the Tech fan base is an interesting one, and it's you miss the Mike Leach days, and I do too. But I just I don't know.
Get ready to keep riding the roller coaster, as you allude to there. I was actually texting with a few Matador mobsters this morning about this. I saw from the Big 12 conference that the league leads FBS with 17 lead changes in the fourth quarter in conference games this season, and they've seen 86 lead changes and ties total so far, the most of any FBS league. So I guess now, given the seat that you're in as a team, you're hoping that continues, because you're facing some wide margins as far as, say, minus 14 or so heading off. So you're hoping to create a little chaos as you try to move forward.
Yeah, you're trying to play spoiler right now, and it's going to be interesting to see who is under center. I mean, this is not going to be an easy challenge. I don't know what the weather's going to look like up in Ames, and then obviously Colorado is you're about to play both of these teams, Iowa State and Colorado, in back-to-back weeks. They're both going to be coming off their bye week each time. So I think that's probably not a lucky break from your standpoint. So you're going to get Shedeur Sanders. You're going to get Travis Hunter. You're going to get the Horn Kid. You're going to get that whole deal. And, I mean, I don't care who I don't care if Sean McVay is calling plays. You may have to score points and I don't know if you can score enough against Colorado right now unless your defense plays a bit better. It's just the reality of it. So it's going to be tough in the coming weeks. But I do we want to get into Behren Morton now?
Oh yeah, you're taking 4 quarterbacks to Ames, and
Yep.
I was a little bit surprised to hear kind of the context that it seemed like came from Coach McGuire in the program regarding his status moving forward. No structural damage was a key descriptor. Here is Joey McGuire.
Tell you, nothing structurally is wrong with Behrens' non-throwing shoulder. He's got a lot of movement back in it, and we'll see how he feels tomorrow. If he'll practice tomorrow, he'll practice Wednesday, but feel really good about that. We were nervous that there was a break, couldn't see anything, and then so structurally he's good to go on his non-throwing shoulder. Behrens' a guy, he's healthy, man. I think he's even if you go back, I mean, Behren put us in a point to where it's 17-14, in the first quarter. I mean, number-wise, as far as taking care of the football, the number of touchdowns that he's thrown, it'll be interesting because he's pretty sore now. I mean, we are structurally sound, but I imagine he would tell you he wouldn't want to go play a football game today, and so I'm not ruling out playing Will Hammond on Saturday. I wouldn't rule that out at all. But I'm not going to rule out Behren Morton playing either. Where I would tell you, up until I saw him on yesterday, I would have been like, yeah, he might be out for a couple of weeks. But once we did everything, X-rays, MRIs, everything like that, we felt a lot better about where he's at.
Chris, I don't know if I should have just expected maybe it to be described this way because of, some gamesmanship choice or something like that, or if this was a little surprising, at least to me, to hear him kind of talked about in that way, given what we saw play out.
I don't think it is at all. I think that he tipped everybody off early in his meeting with the media, Joey did, when he's like, everybody on this questionable list I expect to play. Behren Morton's included on that questionable list. But basically, you know for sure of the guys that are out for the year. You already know those. But Bryce Ramirez is the only one that is not going to play this weekend. Now there's a long list of questionable guys now, and we went over a lot of that earlier in the week, or over the weekend. But he just said, and so I think he's like, that includes Behren Morton. To which I'm like, okay. Well, then he kind of goes through it. But this isn't gamesmanship at all, in my opinion. I think that short of him just kind of getting into a practice and it's just extremely uncomfortable and he can't really do it. But I think that the preparation leading up to when these practices will happen, I guess this would be later today, would be the first one. I mean, he's preparing to play and start. And the tricky thing about Will Hammond is, I don't think they want to, if he's the starter, like if Behren was legitimately hurt and you're saying, okay, Will, it's your show, fine, then go do that. But if it's kind of this deal, Will doesn't want to be like to burn a year off of just kind of, I guess he would still have a couple of games to go, potentially. But they just trying to be smart with that situation there. So,
Gotcha.
But this is Barron's team, and Barron is quarterback this offense to the 16th best or 18th best offense in the country, depending on whether it's total yards or points scored. So, could he be better? Sure, but I think he will give it a go if he's able to. Absolutely, and I got to tell you, I mostly expect that to be the case.
Interesting.
Yep.
And thank goodness. Obviously hoping for the best, but was not a scene that inspired a lot of confidence on Saturday. So
yeah, I'm just as surprised as you are, because I just thought I would have lost money going, man, there just ain't no way he's playing this weekend, at least, but it's kind of a tip though that they couldn't see anything with the x-rays, and they just couldn't identify just other than he's sore. Maybe he just, and it's also helps too. This is non-throwing, it'd be maybe different if it was his throwing shoulder, but it's not. And this is going to be a grind of a game too. This is going to be a grind of a game. Like you're going to hope to score 24 or 28 and hope that your defense really, really plays well. Because we just stated Iowa State just didn't give you much, and it could be raining, and that grass is about like yay tall. It's just and they water it. If it wasn't raining, it's just slow going. So so it'll be a grind this weekend, no matter who's under center.
Be a bit of a slog, and I just excited to use the word slog. In looking at the injury report, otherwise, I was glad to hear that comment from Coach McGuire, just optimism about everybody right off the bat, because we're talking a handful, 4 or 5 DBs, 4 of those really consistent impact players. And we're talking, I think, 2 starting offensive linemen in addition to a depth piece. But there's some heavy hitters as far as the names. And that, I didn't even mention the quarterback. I assume people know. Right.
There as well. Right. Yeah. There's – your Devin Cromwell's, your Chapman Lewis's. There's some, your Mo Horn. You still got now a couple of offensive linemen now, Davion Carter and Dalton Merriman on there as well. So we'll just kind of see what we get. I would say this. While Joey may say, I expect all the questionable guys to have a great chance to play, I would be surprised if every one of them was like good to go, but maybe that's what you get. But there's, I don't know, what is it? 8 of them on there? I think 8 names.
That's right. 8 or 9.
Yeah. 8 or 9.
Are you good to go? Are you good enough? By the time November is knocking on your door, man, some of these questions take on new meanings, I guess, as you get a little bit later on into the season, and teams just get beat up. All right. Appreciate the insights today, Chris. As always, it was a whole lot to process from an enthusiastic conversation with Joey McGuire as he kicked off the week meeting with the local media. So appreciate the time to go over some of that, man. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next one.
We appreciate the passion. We can get passionate sometimes. Joey can get passionate, but hey, we're all in this thing together. We are all about the Red Raider. So guns up, keep hope alive. I know I will, as hard as it may be. And, may that ball go flat in Waco on Saturday. It would be my hope.
Appreciate you guys for being out there. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Check out the show notes for the Matador Mob link as well. A free 14-day trial. Try it on. Like Chris said, if you don't like it, return it. But that's your opportunity to try it on. In the show notes, hit the link there, your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text delivered straight to your phone. Thank you to the everydayers and for everybody being out there for this one. For Chris, I'm Casey. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.